Listen up. The only thing holding you back from the life you want is the story you keep telling yourself. That old version of you, the one clinging to excuses, drowning in fear, and making peace with mediocrity, that person has to die today. Right now, you've been feeding yourself lies about what you can and can't do, and it's time to stop playing small. That version of you isn't just outdated, it's a prison. And the key to breaking out? It's in your hands, it's in your choices, it's in your willingness to step into the fire and burn away everything that's been holding you down. You think transformation is supposed to be comfortable? Hell no. It's brutal. It's messy. It's a war between who you've been and who you're meant to be. But here's the truth, the pain of staying the same will eventually outweigh the pain of change. So why wait until you're cornered? Why wait until life forces you to change? Be the one who decides to walk into that storm on your own terms. Because on the other side of discomfort is freedom. Real freedom. Not the kind you talk about but never chase. The kind that wakes you up every day with purpose pounding in your chest. You've been hiding behind your old self because it's safe, it's familiar, but safety is a lie. It's a slow death. Every time you choose the easy path, every time you let fear win, you're reinforcing the chains. You're giving that old version of you more power. But when you decide enough is enough, when you look in the mirror and say, I refuse to be this person for one more second, that's when the game changes. That's when you start to break free. It's going to hurt. You're going to want to quit. That's when you double down. That's when you remind yourself why you started. When you feel like you can't take another step, you take two. Because the moment you push past your limit is the moment you realize your limit was never real. The old you was a liar, and the new you has no patience for lies. This is your life. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to hand you the strength or the discipline or the drive. It's on you to build it. Brick by brick. Day by day. You have to make the hard choices. You have to stare down your weaknesses and crush them one by one. There's no shortcut, no cheat code, no secret formula. It's just you, your will, and your refusal to stay the same. So what are you going to do? Are you going to keep dragging that dead weight of your old self, or are you going to let it go and rise up? Are you going to keep making excuses, or are you going to make a new standard? The choice is yours. But don't just choose commit. Go all in. Burn the bridges to your past and refuse to look back. The person you're meant to be is waiting on the other side, and they're not going to wait forever. Stop talking. Stop dreaming. Start doing. And when the world sees what you become, they'll know this: you were never meant to be ordinary. You were born to break free. The first and most critical step in breaking free from your old self is recognizing the truth: the person you've been up until now is not who you're destined to be. That version of you, with all its flaws, insecurities, and limitations, isn't just a part of your identity, it's a self-made prison. Every habit that keeps you stuck, every fear that holds you back, and every excuse you use to justify staying in your comfort zone has built a wall around your potential. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I can't do that, or that's just the way I am? These phrases feel innocent, but they're dangerous. They're the bars of your cell, reinforcing the idea that change is impossible, that you're somehow stuck being less than you could be. But here's the reality: you created those limitations, and because you created them, you can destroy them. That old self, the one you keep clinging to, feels safe because it's familiar. You know its patterns, its routines, its comfort zones, it's the path of least resistance. But safety is an illusion. The comfort you feel in staying the same isn't real comfort, it's avoidance. It's the fear of stepping into the unknown, of risking failure, of facing discomfort. And that avoidance is costing you your future. Imagine a lion born in captivity. It's given everything it needs to survive, but it doesn't know what it feels like to hunt, to run free, to roar with power. That's you when you live as your old self. You're surviving, not thriving. You're confined to the limits of a life that feels small and predictable when you're meant to live boldly, to push boundaries, to experience the fullness of your potential. The key to escaping this prison starts with awareness. You have to see the walls you've built for what they are: choices. They're not permanent, they're not unchangeable, and they're certainly not the truth of who you are. Once you recognize that every excuse, every fear, and every limiting belief is just a construct, you can begin tearing it down. This realization is uncomfortable, and it should be, because it means taking responsibility for the fact that you've been the one keeping yourself locked in. It's not your circumstances, not your upbringing, not anyone else's opinion of you. It's you. And that's not a condemnation, it's empowerment. If you've created this prison, then you hold the power to dismantle it brick by brick. You can't break free. If you're still romanticizing the old self, stop looking back at who you were with nostalgia or attachment. That version of you doesn't serve you anymore. It's time to let it go. It's time to stop carrying the weight of an identity that no longer fits and step into the unknown with courage. The moment you stop identifying with your old self is the moment you open the door to a future that's limitless. But make no mistake, recognizing the prison is just the beginning. Awareness without action is useless. The real work comes next. But without this awareness, without truly seeing and acknowledging how your old self has been holding you back, you'll never take the first step. So look in the mirror, see the truth, and make the decision: I will no longer be a prisoner of who I used to be. The decision to change isn't something you make casually. It's a line in the sand, a declaration to yourself that the old way of living ends here and now. You spent years building the habits, thoughts, and patterns that define your current self, but none of that is permanent. The power to transform is in your hands, but it starts with a non-negotiable commitment. This isn't about saying, I'll try trying is weak. Trying leaves room for retreat. This is about deciding with absolute certainty that you are done being who you've been and are ready to become who you're meant to be. You can't wait for the perfect time or the right conditions to make this shift. There is no perfect moment. Life doesn't hand you change on a silver platter. You have to take it. Too often people say they'll change when they feel ready, when things settle down, or when they get a sign. That's just procrastination wearing a disguise. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. It's deciding that no matter how scared, uncertain, or unprepared you feel, you're moving forward anyway. This kind of commitment demands a level of honesty most people aren't willing to face. You have to look at yourself and admit where you've been falling short. You have to acknowledge the ways you've let yourself off the hook, the excuses you've made, and the potential you've ignored. That kind of raw self-reflection is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Without it, you're just lying to yourself, pretending you're fine when deep down you know you're not. When you commit to immediate change, you burn the bridges to your old self. You don't give yourself an out. You don't allow yourself to fall back into old patterns when things get tough. You lock the door behind you and throw away the key, leaving no option but to move forward. That level of commitment creates momentum. It gives you a sense of urgency because you're not dabbling in change, you're diving in head first. But here's the thing, commitment alone isn't enough. It has to be backed by action. Words and intentions are meaningless without follow through. Once you decide to change, you have to start taking steps immediately. Even small actions matter because they send a message to yourself that you're serious. Waiting, hesitating, or overthinking kills momentum. The moment you decide to change, act. Take one small step and then another, and then another. This is how you build confidence. Confidence doesn't come from wishing or hoping. It comes from proving to yourself that you can keep the promises you make. Every step you take strengthens your commitment. Every action moves you further away from the person you were and closer to the person you want to become. There will be moments when you want to quit, when the discomfort feels overwhelming and your old self tries to pull you back. That's when you double down on your decision. You remind yourself why you started, why staying the same is no longer an option, and why this commitment to change is the most important promise you've ever made. Commitment isn't a one-time thing. It's a choice you make every single day. But the more you choose it, the easier it becomes. Momentum builds. The changes compound. And before you know it, you've created a version of yourself that you once thought was impossible. It all starts with a decision, one powerful, immediate, and unwavering choice to leave the old you behind forever. Transformation is never comfortable. If you're serious about breaking free from your old self, you need to make peace with discomfort because it's going to be your constant companion. Growth doesn't happen in the cozy confines of familiarity. It happens when you stretch yourself, when you push past the edges of what feels safe, and when you take on challenges that scare you. Discomfort is the price of admission for becoming someone new, and you have to be willing to pay it every single day. Most people avoid discomfort at all costs. They seek shortcuts, distractions, and easy paths that let them stay the same while pretending they're making progress. But the truth is, every time you choose comfort over challenge, you're choosing to stay stagnant. You're choosing the version of yourself that's too afraid to risk failure, too hesitant to take a leap, and too tied to the illusion of safety to truly grow. Think of discomfort as a fire. It's intimidating at first, hot, intense, and overwhelming. But that fire isn't there to destroy you, it's there to forge you. Just like metal is shaped and strengthened in flames, you are shaped and strengthened by the moments that test you. When you step into discomfort, you're giving yourself a chance to become tougher, smarter, and more resilient. You're stripping away the excuses, the weakness, and the fear that have held you back. Embracing discomfort means actively seeking out the hard things, not waiting for them to find you. It means saying yes to the challenges you'd normally avoid, taking on tasks that stretch your abilities, and putting yourself in situations where failure is a real possibility. It's in those moments when you're pushed to your limits that you discover what you're truly capable of. You realize that the limits you thought were there were just mental constructs, and you begin to redefine what's possible for you. But let's be clear, discomfort doesn't mean chaos or recklessness. It's not about putting yourself in harm's way or taking unnecessary risks. It's about calculated, deliberate action that forces you to grow. It's about choosing the harder option, the one that requires more effort, more discipline, and more courage. Whether it's waking up earlier to work on your goals, having the difficult conversation you've been avoiding, or pushing through the last reps in a workout when your body is screaming to stop, these moments of discomfort are where the magic happens. Discomfort also brings clarity. It strips away all the distractions and forces you to confront the raw truth about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, and the stories you tell yourself to avoid change. It's in those moments of struggle that you learn who you really are. And the more you lean into discomfort, the more you realize it's not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's the gateway to the freedom, strength, and transformation you've been chasing. Most importantly, discomfort builds momentum. Every time you choose the harder path, you're training your mind and body to endure more, to handle challenges with greater ease, and to keep moving forward no matter what. You're rewiring yourself to see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to grow. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes second nature. The discomfort that used to terrify you becomes the fuel that drives you. If you're waiting for change to feel easy or natural, you'll be waiting forever. The old you will fight to keep you comfortable, to keep you small, to keep you stuck. But the new you, the person you're becoming, thrives in discomfort. They understand that pain is temporary, but growth is permanent. So stop avoiding the hard things. Dive into the fire, embrace the struggle, and let discomfort transform you into the person you were meant to be. Excuses are the chains that keep you tied to your old self. They're the lies you tell yourself to justify why you're not where you want to be. Every time you say, I don't have time, or it's too hard, or I'll start tomorrow, you're handing power to your old self. Excuses feel comforting because they take the pressure off, but they're poison. They rob you of growth, opportunity, and the chance to become someone better. If you want to break free, you need to destroy every excuse with relentless truth and action. Let's call excuses what they really are: fear wrapped in logic. You might tell yourself you're too busy to work on your goals, but the truth is you're afraid of failure. You might say you don't have the resources, but the truth is you're afraid of looking foolish if you try and don't succeed. Excuses mask the deeper fears and doubts that hold you back, and as long as you cling to them, you'll stay stuck. The first step is recognizing this. Call yourself out. Be brutally honest. Ask yourself, am I making a genuine limitation into an excuse? Or am I letting fear drive the narrative? Excuses also give you an illusion of control. They make you feel like the situation is out of your hands, so you don't have to take responsibility. But here's the hard truth: as long as you're blaming circumstances, other people, or external factors, you're choosing to stay powerless. Taking full responsibility is terrifying because it means you have no one to blame but yourself. But it's also liberating when you stop making excuses as you take back control. You realize that your growth, success, and transformation are entirely up to you. Destroying excuses requires action, immediate and decisive action. The best way to silence an excuse is to prove it wrong. Don't have time? Wake up an hour earlier. Too tired? Start small and push through. Not ready? Take the first step anyway. Every time you act in spite of an excuse, you weaken its grip. You show yourself that the limitations you thought were real were just walls you built in your mind. And with every wall you break down, you gain strength, confidence, and momentum. Excuses also thrive on perfectionism. You tell yourself you need the perfect plan, the perfect moment, or the perfect set of circumstances before you start. But perfection is a lie. It's a stalling tactic. The truth is, you don't need perfect conditions, you need commitment. You need to be willing to start messy, to fail forward, and to learn as you go. Action creates clarity. Movement creates momentum. Stop waiting for the perfect time and make now the time. It's also important to understand that excuses often hide in the language you use. Phrases like "I can't," "it's too late," or "I'm not ready" are red flags. Replace them with empowering language. Instead of "I can't," say "how can I?" Instead of "it's too late," say "what can I do today?" to start reframing your mindset changes the way you approach challenges. It shifts you from a victim of your circumstances to the creator of your future. But here's the catch: destroying excuses isn't a one-time thing. They'll keep creeping back, trying to convince you to settle, to take the easy way out, to stay the same. That's why you need to stay vigilant. Call out your excuses every time they show up. Crush them with action. Remind yourself that every excuse is a step back into the prison of your old self, and every action you take is a step closer to freedom. If you want to become someone new, you can't afford to let excuses run your life. You have to develop a zero-tolerance policy for them. They don't serve you. They don't protect you. They're not valid. They're the enemy, and you have to treat them as such. So stop rationalizing, stop justifying, and stop giving power to the voice that says you can't. You can, and you will, but only if you refuse to let excuses stand in your way. Facing your weaknesses is one of the most challenging and necessary steps in breaking free from your old self. It requires brutal honesty, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. Most people spend their lives running from their weaknesses, hiding behind distractions, or blaming external circumstances. But the truth is, your weaknesses aren't something to fear. They're the gateway to your transformation. If you want to grow, you have to stop running, turn around, and face them head on. Weaknesses are not a sign of failure. They're areas of untapped potential. They're not fixed traits or permanent flaws. They're opportunities for improvement. But the first step is admitting they exist. This requires humility and courage because it means acknowledging that you're not as strong, disciplined, or skilled as you could be. It's uncomfortable to admit where you fall short, but discomfort is a small price to pay for the freedom and growth that come from confronting reality. To face your weaknesses, you have to stop making excuses for them. It's easy to rationalize them away. That's just the way I am, or I can't help it. These statements are cop-outs. They're the voice of your old self trying to keep you comfortable and complacent. Recognize this for what it is: a defense mechanism to avoid growth. Instead of accepting your weaknesses as unchangeable, start seeing them as challenges to overcome. The process begins with honest self-reflection. Look at your life and identify the areas where you consistently fall short. Is it your discipline, your confidence, your ability to handle criticism, or your willingness to take risks? Don't sugarcoat it. Be specific. Name your weaknesses, write them down, and own them. This isn't about self-judgment or shame, it's about clarity. You can't fix what you refuse to face. Once you've identified your weaknesses, you need a plan to attack them. This isn't about trying to eliminate them overnight. It's about consistent, deliberate effort to improve. Start small. If you lack discipline, commit to one small, manageable habit, like waking up 15 minutes earlier every day. If you're afraid of public speaking, start by speaking up more in small groups. Progress is incremental, but it's powerful. Every small win builds momentum and chips away at the grip your weaknesses have on you. Facing your weaknesses also means being willing to fail. Growth isn't linear and you're going to mess up along the way. That's part of the process. Failure isn't a sign that you're incapable, it's a sign that you're trying, that you're pushing past your limits. Embrace failure as feedback. Learn from it. Use it to refine your approach and keep moving forward. Surrounding yourself with accountability is another key to confronting weaknesses. Share your goals with people who will push you, challenge you, and call you out when you're slipping. Accountability partners, mentors, or coaches can provide perspective and support, but ultimately you're the one who has to do the work. No one else can face your weaknesses for you. Over time, you'll start to notice something incredible. The weaknesses that once felt like insurmountable obstacles will begin to lose their power. They won't disappear entirely, but they'll transform into strengths, or at least into areas where you're no longer afraid to push yourself. You'll realize that the act of facing your weaknesses was never about becoming perfect. It was about becoming resilient, adaptable, and unshakable. The old self thrives on denial and avoidance. It wants you to hide from your weaknesses because that's how it stays in control. But the new you, the person you're becoming, sees weaknesses as opportunities. They understand that facing them is the only way to grow. So stop running, stop hiding, and stop settling for less. Look your weaknesses in the eye, attack them with everything you've got, and watch as they transform into the stepping stones that lead you to greatness. Developing mental toughness is the foundation of breaking free from your old self and stepping into a life of purpose and growth. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with, it's something you build brick by brick through discipline, resilience, and relentless action. It's the armor that protects you when life gets hard, the fuel that keeps you going when everything in you wants to quit, and the mindset that turns obstacles into opportunities. The first step in building mental toughness is understanding that comfort is the enemy. The old version of you craved comfort and avoided hard things, made excuses, and stayed safe. But the new you can't afford to think that way. Mental toughness is forged in discomfort. It's built in those moments when you're tired, scared, or overwhelmed and you decide to push forward anyway. Every time you step outside your comfort zone and face adversity head on, you're strengthening your mental muscles. But let's be real, mental toughness isn't about being fearless or immune to pain. It's about acknowledging fear and discomfort and choosing to act in spite of them. It's about learning to control your mind instead of letting it control you. Your mind will always try to pull you back to safety, whispering lies like you can't do this or just take it easy. Mental toughness is about recognizing those thoughts for what they are, noise, and refusing to let them dictate your actions. Discipline is a critical part of mental toughness. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline keeps you consistent. It's waking up early to work on your goals even when you don't feel like it. It's saying no to distractions and yes to the hard work that moves you forward. Discipline isn't glamorous, but it's what separates those who transform from those who stay stuck. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're training your mind to prioritize long-term success over short-term gratification. Another key aspect of mental toughness is resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks. Life will knock you down. You'll fail, you'll face rejection, and you'll encounter challenges that test every fiber of your being. But mental toughness means refusing to stay down. It's about looking at failure not as a stop sign, but as a detour, a chance to learn, adapt, and come back stronger. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who never fail, they're the ones who refuse to give up when they do. To build resilience, you have to shift your mindset. Stop seeing obstacles as problems and start seeing them as opportunities to grow. Every challenge you face is a chance to prove to yourself what you're capable of. It's a chance to build the kind of mental toughness that will carry you through even the darkest moments. Resilience isn't about avoiding hardship, it's about thriving in the midst of it. Developing mental toughness also means holding yourself accountable. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to do the work for you. You are responsible for your actions, your attitude, and your results. Stop blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck. Take ownership of your life. When you mess up, own it. When you succeed, build on it. Accountability is the backbone of mental toughness because it keeps you focused on what you can control. Mental toughness is the bridge between the old you and the person you want to become. It's not easy to develop, but nothing worth having ever is. So stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Stop hoping for an easy road and start building the mindset that can handle anything life throws your way. Because once you're mentally tough, nothing can stop you, not your fears, not your excuses, not even your old self. To break free from your old self, you need to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. In fact, this is one of the most powerful shifts you can make. The old you avoids discomfort, seeks ease, and gravitates toward familiarity. The new you embraces discomfort as a catalyst for growth. This is where real change happens, not when things are easy, but when you're willing to do the hard, uncomfortable work that forces you to evolve. The human brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. It's a survival mechanism our ancestors had to find comfort to survive in harsh environments. But today, in the context of personal growth, this wiring is a limitation. You have to override this instinct to step into the discomfort zone. When you make the conscious decision to do hard things, to face the discomfort, you signal to your brain that you're no longer operating from a place of fear or avoidance. You're willing to stretch, to push beyond the boundaries that have been holding you back, and to face challenges head on. The moment you step into discomfort, you shift your mindset from a victim of your circumstances to the architect of your destiny. Discomfort becomes a tool, not a hindrance. It means you're doing something that's forcing you to grow, whether that's physically, mentally, or emotionally. It's like hitting a wall when you're working out. The pain you feel tells you that your muscles are tearing and rebuilding, getting stronger. Similarly, when you're uncomfortable in your life, it's a signal that you're tearing down your old limitations and building new strength, new capacity, and new possibilities. But it's not just about physical discomfort. Emotional and mental discomfort are just as important. You need to challenge your limiting beliefs, push through self-doubt, and confront the fear of failure or rejection. Often, this is where the real work lies, shifting your mental state. It's about breaking free from the false narratives you've built about what's possible for you. You may be afraid of looking foolish, of being judged, or of failing. But you need to understand that these fears are part of the process. They're not signs that you shouldn't try, they're signs that you're moving in the right direction. One of the key ways to become comfortable with discomfort is to redefine what discomfort means to you. Instead of seeing discomfort as a sign of something going wrong or being impossible, start to view it as a sign of growth. When you feel that resistance, that discomfort, acknowledge it and lean into it. You have to train yourself to see discomfort not as something to avoid, but as something to seek. Whether it's taking on a challenging project at work, starting a new workout regimen, or having an uncomfortable conversation, you need to push through those initial feelings of resistance. You also need to understand that discomfort is temporary. It might feel unbearable in the moment, but it will pass. The more you embrace it, the quicker it will pass, and the stronger you will become. Life is full of moments where you could choose the path of least resistance, but it's in those moments where you choose discomfort that the real transformation occurs. You prove to yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way, that you can push through adversity and come out stronger on the other side. This discomfort also creates resilience. The more you face it, the more you build your tolerance for discomfort. What once seemed like a massive challenge will eventually feel routine. Your mental and emotional muscles will grow, and you'll begin to take on bigger challenges with less hesitation. What seemed impossible will eventually become possible, and then it'll become easy. You'll develop a sense of confidence and power because, from experience that you can handle discomfort, and more than that, you can thrive in it. It's also important to realize that the discomfort you feel isn't always external. Often the most significant discomfort is internal. It's the discomfort of confronting your weaknesses, your fears, your doubts, and your insecurities. This kind of internal discomfort is the most critical because it's what keeps you stuck. When you learn to sit with those uncomfortable feelings instead of running from them, you develop the strength to grow through them. You stop allowing them to control you and start using them as stepping stones to evolve into the person you're meant to be. Ultimately, when you make peace with discomfort, you free yourself. You no longer need to seek external validation or approval. You don't need the perfect environment to change. You can make progress no matter where you are because you've conditioned your mind to thrive in discomfort. The more you lean into the hard things, the more powerful you become, and the faster you break free from the chains of your old self. Breaking free from your old self requires you to build a sense of urgency. Time is your most valuable resource, and once it's gone, you can never get it back. Many people waste years waiting for the perfect moment, the right opportunity, or for their circumstances to align perfectly before they take action. But the truth is, there's no perfect time. There's only the present. You need to realize that the longer you wait, the more you're delaying your growth. The old you procrastinates, waits for things to be easier, and seeks comfort. But the new you takes immediate action, refuses to wait, and creates their own opportunities through relentless urgency. Urgency is the difference between those who talk about change and those who actually make it happen. When you cultivate a sense of urgency, you stop giving yourself excuses. You stop saying, I'll do it tomorrow, or when things settle down, I'll get started. Time doesn't wait for anyone. The longer you wait to take action, the more opportunities pass you by, the more habits form, and the more ingrained your old self becomes. You have to make the decision now today to begin the process of transformation. Urgency doesn't mean rushing through life or making reckless decisions. It means having a deep sense of purpose and direction. It's knowing that every day matters. It's looking at each moment and asking yourself, what am I doing right now to move closer to my goals? When you have that kind of urgency, you don't waste time on distractions. You prioritize the things that matter most and take action without hesitation. One powerful way to cultivate urgency is to visualize the cost of inaction. Think about where you'll be a year from now if you keep putting things off. Think about the missed opportunities, the continued frustration of staying stuck, and the regret of not taking the leap when you had the chance. Now, think about where you could be if you started today. The growth, the progress, the achievements, you are the sum of your actions, and every day you delay changes the trajectory of your life. The clock is ticking, and every minute you waste is a minute you'll never get back. That realization should light a fire inside of you. Urgency also ties directly to your goals. When you have a clear, compelling vision for your future, urgency becomes natural. You have a sense of purpose and motivation that propels you forward. Without clear goals, it's easy to drift, to allow procrastination to take over. But when you're focused on something bigger than yourself, when you're driven by a deep sense of purpose, the urgency comes from within. It becomes your internal compass, reminding you that time is precious and your goals deserve immediate attention. The fear of failure often paralyzes people into inaction, and they convince themselves that it's safer to wait than to try and fail. But this is a dangerous trap. Waiting for the perfect time is just another form of procrastination. The truth is, the fear of failure is far less damaging than the regret of never trying. When you build urgency, you embrace the fact that failure is part of the process, not the end of it. You make peace with the idea that mistakes, setbacks, and challenges are just stepping stones on the way to success. Urgency isn't about avoiding mistakes, it's about moving forward despite them, learning, growing, and evolving. To break free from your old self, you need to develop a sense of urgency around your goals, your personal growth, and your future. Every day is an opportunity to become better than you were yesterday. But that change won't happen if you keep putting it off, waiting for the right moment, or hoping things will magically fall into place. You must decide that now is the time. You must commit to making progress, taking action, and creating the future you want to live. Start now. Don't wait. The perfect moment isn't coming. It's already here. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is your willingness to act. Urgency is the spark that will ignite your transformation. It's the catalyst that forces you to stop talking about change and start creating it. Your old self may have been comfortable with complacency, but the new you is hungry for progress, hungry for results, and ready to move. Time is passing. Don't waste another second. Take action, build momentum, and watch how quickly your life changes when you make urgency your default mode. Breaking free from your old self requires an unwavering commitment to never stop evolving. Personal growth is not a destination, it's a journey that has no finish line. Most people, once they've achieved a certain level of success or comfort, stop pushing themselves. They settle into the version of themselves they think is good enough, but that mindset is the trap that keeps you tethered to your old self. The new you, the version you're striving to become, is in a constant state of growth. You can't afford to get complacent. You can't afford to stop evolving. The moment you stop growing, you start dying mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Evolving means constantly challenging yourself to become better, to break through the barriers you've built around yourself. It means that you never, ever settle for where you are. You're always looking for ways to improve, whether that's learning new skills, deepening your knowledge, or expanding your comfort zone. You can't afford to think that you've arrived, because as soon as you do, your progress will stall. The key to breaking free from your old self is understanding that personal development is a lifelong commitment. Every experience you encounter is an opportunity for growth. Whether you succeed or fail, it's not the outcome that defines you, it's what you do with it. Success is a great teacher, but failure is where the real learning happens. It's in those moments when you fall short, when things don't go as planned, when you hit a wall, that you have the chance to reevaluate, adjust, and grow. The person you are today isn't the person you need to be tomorrow. You must always be looking at where you can improve, where you can stretch, and where you can evolve. You can't afford to be stagnant either emotionally or intellectually. If you're not actively learning, you're falling behind. Every great leader, entrepreneur, athlete, or performer knows this. They never stop honing their craft. They never stop pushing themselves to new heights. Personal growth isn't just about doing more, it's about becoming more. It's about becoming the type of person who can handle bigger challenges, take on more responsibility, and make a greater impact in the world. And part of evolving means embracing discomfort and uncertainty. Growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when you push yourself into unfamiliar territory. The person you are right now is limited by your current experiences, knowledge, and mindset. To evolve, you have to seek out the unknown, the unfamiliar, and the uncomfortable. You have to be willing to try things that scare you, things that make you uncomfortable, because that's where real change happens. This evolution also requires you to break free from limiting beliefs. The old self lives in the comfort of I can't, and I'm not good enough, but the new you starts from a place of how can I and what's next. You need to unlearn the stories you've been telling yourself about what you're capable of. Your potential is far greater than you think, but you'll never realize it if you don't push the boundaries of what you believe is possible. Consistency is the bedrock of evolution. It's not enough to have moments of inspiration. It's about doing the hard work every single day. It's about small, incremental improvements. It's about embracing the grind even when you don't see immediate results. Change doesn't happen overnight. It's the daily effort that compounds over time to create massive transformation. Just like a muscle grows stronger from consistent resistance, your mind and spirit grow stronger through consistent challenges. Your ability to evolve also depends on your willingness to adapt. Life is unpredictable, and circumstances will change. People will come and go. Successes and failures will ebb and flow. But if you're committed to evolution, you won't be stuck in a rigid version of yourself. You'll learn how to pivot, to adjust your mindset, and to thrive in whatever situation you find yourself in. Evolution requires flexibility, adaptability, and a willingness to reinvent yourself when necessary.